When Grandma kept falling out of her wheelchair, the family grew concerned. Her son, Michael, couldn't understand how it kept happening despite all precautions. To ensure her safety, he installed cameras around the house, hoping to find an explanation. What the footage revealed, however, was far more shocking than he ever anticipated. Michael watched the recordings, heart pounding, as a disturbing truth began to unfold. He gasped as he rewatched the footage multiple times, then showed it to his wife, Loretta. "Oh my God! Are you serious? This cannot be happening," she exclaimed, insisting they call the police immediately. Michael, however, had other plans. "I've got a better idea," he whispered, and without further ado, he jumped in the car and sped to his mother's house. His mother had given him a spare key, so he entered without knocking. "Mom, where are you?" he called out, but there was no reply. He assumed she was home because the door was unlocked and the lights were still on. But the house seemed eerily empty. "Is anyone here?" Michael asked, but the silence was deafening. And then he saw something that sent a shiver down his spine. With trembling hands, he grabbed his phone and did what his wife had suggested after all. He called the police. As he explained what had happened, a tear rolled down his face. He hoped it wasn't too late yet. But what had Michael found? Where was his mother? And what had he seen on the security footage that upset him so much? It hadn't seemed to be anything serious at first. Grandma Kathy was only getting older, and it was becoming more and more difficult for her to move around on her own. At first, she had gotten a walking cane to help her get around the house, and she used a walker whenever she left the house. This seemed to work for a while, but it wasn't long before she switched to a wheelchair. Kathy pretended to be unfazed, but Michael knew it was a big deal for her. "You're doing great, Mom," he often reassured her, helping out as much as he could. Either he or Loretta stopped by the house daily, often bringing meals or groceries. They even paid for small renovations to make her home wheelchair accessible and installed a stair lift. Everything seemed to be going well, and no one expected things to go downhill so quickly. One day, Loretta came home and hurried straight to Michael. "Honey, your mother, I don't," she stammered, her voice trembling. Michael's worry spiked instantly. "What is it? Is she okay?" he wanted to know. Loretta, her face pale, sat him down and explained she had just gone to bring Kathy some soup. When Kathy opened the door, Loretta was shocked to see her face covered in bruises. Loretta, shocked, asked what had happened, but Kathy just brushed it off and said she had fallen out of her wheelchair. Despite the bruises, she seemed otherwise fine, though a bit embarrassed by the whole situation. She assured her daughter-in-law that she shouldn't worry, and it wouldn't happen again. "I was just being clumsy, that's all," she insisted. Michael felt terrible about the incident and immediately hired a caregiver to help his mother with dressing, bathing, laundry, and other tasks. Although Kathy initially insisted she was managing fine on her own, she eventually agreed to the help after a serious conversation with Michael. However, no one anticipated the disaster that followed. And it came extremely unexpected, to say the least. It's important to note that Michael and Loretta had met with the caregiver, Nicole, before officially hiring her and thought she was perfect for the job. Nicole seemed honest, hard-working, and experienced, giving them confidence that Grandma Kathy would be in good hands. Michael regularly checked in with his mother, who assured him she liked Nicole and appreciated the help. But the next time he saw her, he was in for a huge shock. One day, Michael dropped by his mother's house to have a cup of tea with her, as he was already in the neighborhood, and he couldn't believe his eyes when she opened the door. "Oh, Mom, are you okay? How did that happen to you?" he asked, as he gently hugged Kathy and entered the house. She just sighed and averted her eyes. She was all bruised again. Michael gently led his mother to the living room and insisted she rest on the couch, expressing his concern. "Mom, let's sit down. You need to take it easy," he said softly. He watched her carefully as she settled into the couch, her frail form seeming even more delicate. Kathy offered a weak smile, trying to lighten the mood, but Michael's worry was evident. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Kathy assured him she was just clumsy, but Michael felt uneasy deep inside. "It's nothing, Michael. I'm just getting old and forgetful," she said, chuckling lightly. He nodded, but couldn't hide the concern on his face. "I don't want you to keep getting hurt, Mom. We need to figure this out," he replied. Although Kathy tried to dismiss the issue, it was clear that Michael's unease lingered. The next morning, Michael and Loretta discussed what he had seen and agreed it was time to get to the bottom of things. Over breakfast, Michael recounted the incidents. "Something isn't adding up, Loretta," he said. Loretta listened intently, the crease on her forehead deepening with worry. "We can't just ignore this, Michael. Let's find out what's really happening," she urged. They both knew they had to act quickly. Loretta decided to take a week off from work to personally oversee things at Kathy's house. "I've got some vacation days saved up. I'll stay at your mom's place and keep an eye on her," she offered. Michael agreed, appreciating her willingness to help. "That's a great idea, Loretta. Maybe with you there, we can get to the bottom of this," he said, relieved. They both knew it was necessary. She planned to observe Nicole's interactions with Grandma while secretly keeping an eye on the house. "I'll pretend it's just a normal visit, so Nicole doesn't suspect anything," Loretta said. Michael nodded. "Make sure to note anything unusual, and don't let on that you're watching her." With a plan in place, Loretta prepared for her stay at Kathy's house, determined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious incidents. Pretending it was just a regular visit, Loretta moved in temporarily and took notes every day. She brought a few bags, making it look like she was there to spend some quality time with Kathy. "I'll be here all week, so let's enjoy ourselves," she said cheerfully. Kathy seemed pleased with the company and didn't question her extended stay. Loretta set up a small notebook to record her observations discreetly. She tried to catch anything suspicious during her stay. Loretta kept her guard up, observing every interaction between Nicole and Kathy. Whenever Nicole was around, Loretta made sure to be nearby without being too obvious. She was surprised by how pleasant and professional Nicole seemed. Yet, despite Nicole's seemingly good behavior, Loretta knew she had to remain vigilant. No detail was too small to notice. Days passed, and Loretta saw nothing out of the ordinary. Every interaction between Nicole and Kathy appeared genuine. Nicole completed her tasks efficiently, and Kathy seemed to enjoy her company. Despite Loretta's meticulous surveillance, nothing strange or alarming occurred. She felt puzzled, but knew she couldn't let her guard down. Still, something must be wrong. "I have to keep looking," she reminded herself, determined to find the truth. Nicole seemed to be doing her job well, and Kathy appeared comfortable and appreciative of the help. Loretta watched as Nicole assisted Kathy with her daily routines, from bathing to preparing meals. Kathy's demeanor also suggested she enjoyed Nicole's company. "Maybe I imagined it all," Loretta thought, but she didn't voice these doubts to Michael. They both knew they had to remain cautious until they were sure. Still, Loretta couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. Even though everything seemed normal on the surface, she sensed an underlying tension. "Why do I feel like there's more to this?" she wondered. She discussed her observations with Michael, who also felt uneasy despite the apparent normalcy. "We need to dig deeper, Loretta. We can't give up just yet," Michael urged, firm in his resolve. One afternoon, while taking out the trash, Loretta noticed Nicole talking on her phone in agitated whispers. She couldn't help but overhear bits of the conversation. There was tension in Nicole's voice that made Loretta's ears prick up. She didn't want to eavesdrop, but something felt off. Nicole's tone was unlike the cheerful demeanor she usually had when around Kathy. Loretta decided to listen more intently. She couldn't catch everything, but the fragments she heard sent chills down her spine. Loretta stood quietly behind the garage, straining to make out the words. Nicole's voice was muffled, but certain phrases were clear enough to hear. Loretta heard snippets like, "We can't do it now," and "She's always around." The cryptic nature of the conversation only increased her anxiety. She knew she had to tell Michael. "No, not yet. She's always around." "We have to wait for the right moment," Nicole said, before abruptly ending the call. These words rang in Loretta's ears like alarm bells. She quickly ducked out of sight, hoping Nicole hadn't noticed her. Loretta's heart raced as she tried to make sense of the conversation. What did Nicole mean? And who was the call about? Loretta's unease grew stronger. Loretta decided to inform Michael, and together, they planned to confront Nicole the following day. That evening, over dinner, Loretta told Michael everything she had heard. "Something's definitely fishy, Michael. We need to talk to Nicole," Loretta said, her voice tinged with worry. Michael nodded, agreeing that a confrontation was necessary. "We'll ask her about the call. Maybe there's an explanation," Michael suggested. Loretta hoped they would get answers. The confrontation did not yield the results they had hoped for. When Michael and Loretta approached Nicole the next day, she seemed taken aback by their serious tones. "Nicole, we need to talk about something important," Michael began. Nicole glanced between them, her expression cautious. Loretta wasted no time recounting what she had overheard. "We need to understand what's really going on," Loretta insisted. But Nicole's response was unexpected. Nicole looked hurt and offended by their accusations and denied everything firmly. "I don't understand why you think such things about me," Nicole said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been nothing but loyal to Mrs. Kathy." Michael and Loretta exchanged a glance, unsure of how to proceed. Nicole's tears seemed genuine, but could they trust her words? Loretta felt conflicted and wondered if they were wrong about Nicole. "I only have Mrs. Kathy's best interests at heart. I would never harm her," Nicole claimed with tears in her eyes. She explained that the phone call was a personal matter unrelated to Kathy. "I'm sorry if I made you worry," she added. Loretta felt a pang of guilt, but remained uncertain. Michael took a deep breath. "We just want to be sure Kathy's safe," he said gently. Even though Nicole maintained her innocence, Michael felt compelled to keep the cameras rolling. He was no longer convinced that they could take Nicole at her word. "We'll continue with the cameras, just to be on the safe side," he said to Loretta after Nicole left. Loretta nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. They had to be thorough to protect Kathy from any potential harm. They agreed to give Nicole another chance, but with even more vigilance. "We can't dismiss her without proof," Loretta pointed out. Michael nodded. "True, but we'll be watching closely," he assured her. They decided to continue monitoring the footage and remain alert for any suspicious behavior. Nicole's future as Kathy's caregiver hung in the balance, depending on what the cameras would reveal in the coming days. Michael installed hidden cameras in additional rooms that Nicole might frequent. "This way, we'll cover all our bases," he told Loretta. The new cameras were strategically placed, capturing every angle of the house. "Hopefully, we'll get a clearer picture of what's happening," Loretta replied, feeling slightly more at ease. Michael double-checked each camera, ensuring they were well hidden and functioning properly. They were prepared for whatever might come next. They needed undeniable proof. one way or the other. Michael and Loretta knew they couldn't confront Nicole again without concrete evidence. They agreed to monitor everything more rigorously. "We can't make any more accusations without hard facts," Michael emphasized. Loretta nodded in agreement. Their priority was Kathy's safety, and they hoped that by being thorough, they could get to the truth once and for all. Over the next few days, Michael and Loretta monitored the footage rigorously. They split the task, each taking shifts to ensure every minute was covered. "Anything yet?" Loretta would ask during their handovers. Michael would shake his head. "Not yet, but we'll keep watching," he replied with determination. They both knew that missing even a second could mean missing the evidence they needed. Nicole's behavior seemed professional, but Kathy continued to have unexplained bruises. Loretta noted every interaction, watching as Nicole assisted Kathy with kindness and care. "She's good at this," Michael remarked, baffled. Yet, the appearance of new bruises on Kathy couldn't be ignored. Loretta drew a deep breath. "There's something we're missing," she said, her eyes fixed on the screen, hoping they'd catch what was going wrong. One evening, as Michael was reviewing the latest recordings, he noticed Nicole entering Kathy's room seemingly in a hurry. "Loretta, come here," he called out, not taking his eyes off the screen. Nicole didn't follow her usual routine. Instead, she moved quickly, her movements almost frantic. Michael leaned in closer, puzzled by this sudden change. "Something's up," he muttered, determined to find out what Nicole was up to. She held a small bottle in her hand and appeared to be administering something to Kathy. Michael's eyes widened as he observed Nicole's actions closely. "What's in that bottle?" Loretta questioned, her eyes never leaving the screen. Michael shook his head. "I don't know, but it doesn't look right," he replied. The tension in the room grew as they watched Nicole finish and leave rapidly, leaving Kathy alone. This was the first clear evidence that Nicole was likely up to something sinister. Michael replayed the footage repeatedly, making sure they captured everything. "Loretta, we finally have something," he said, his voice trembling. Loretta nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We need to act fast," she replied. They both realized this could be the breakthrough they were waiting for, the proof to protect Kathy. Michael quickly informed Loretta, and they decided to present this footage to the authorities. "We can't sit on this," Michael insisted, dialing the police. Loretta agreed, preparing the necessary details. "We need to make sure they understand the urgency," she said. After explaining the situation, the authorities assured them they would investigate immediately. Michael and Loretta waited anxiously, hoping they had done the right thing. The police began an investigation based on their findings. They requested copies of the footage and gathered statements from Michael and Loretta. "We'll keep you posted on our progress," Detective Harris assured them. Michael felt a mix of relief and anxiety. "I hope they find out what's really happening," he said to Loretta. She nodded, feeling the same mix of emotions. "We've done all we can for now." The police worked discreetly, visiting Kathy under the guise of a wellness check while gathering more information. Detective Harris led the visit, talking to Kathy and Nicole without arousing suspicion. "We're just here to see how you're doing," he said kindly. Kathy seemed pleased with the visit, unaware of the underlying investigation. Michael and Loretta kept their distance, hoping the police would find the answers they couldn't. Detective Harris, leading the case, advised Michael and Loretta to act as though nothing had changed. "Continue as usual. Don't let on that you've contacted us," he instructed. Michael and Loretta agreed, understanding the necessity of maintaining normalcy. "We don't want to tip anyone off," Harris added. They nodded, resolved to follow his advice. The stakes were high, and they had to be careful not to jeopardize the investigation. "Let her think everything's normal. We'll catch her soon," Michael said, glancing at Detective Harris. Harris nodded, understanding the importance of patience. They exchanged a few more tactics before parting ways. Michael returned home, determined to follow through with the plan. He knew they needed to maintain the facade to avoid alarming Nicole. "We'll get to the bottom of this," he muttered, feeling a surge of resolve. That night, Michael struggled to sleep, plagued by worries about his mother. The images from the footage replayed in his mind, making it hard to find peace. He tossed and turned, each creak of the house amplifying his anxiety. What's Nicole really up to? He wondered. Despite his restlessness, Michael knew he had to be patient. Tomorrow, hopefully, would bring them one step closer to uncovering the truth. The next day, Detective Harris placed an undercover officer outside Kathy's house. The officer, dressed as a jogger, discreetly monitored the house from a safe distance. "We need eyes on the ground," Harris had explained. Michael felt reassured knowing someone was keeping watch. Throughout the day, he maintained his usual routine, hoping to avoid any suspicion. Everything hinges on this, he thought, feeling the weight of their plan. If Nicole was indeed harming Kathy, they'd catch her in the act. Michael and Loretta continued to review the footage diligently, noting any subtle changes. They remained vigilant, their eyes glued to the screens. "Anything out of the ordinary?" Loretta asked during dinner. Michael shook his head, but remained hopeful. "We'll catch her soon if she's up to something," he reassured her. Their determination never wavered. Michael tried to keep his mother's spirits up, telling her frequent jokes and making her favorite meals. "You're the best cook, Mom," he praised, serving her homemade lasagna. Kathy's eyes sparkled briefly, enjoying the attention. Michael's heart ached seeing her frailty, but he masked his concern with smiles. "We'll get through this. You'll see," he said softly. Kathy's weak chuckle told him she appreciated his efforts despite her sadness. The breakthrough came sooner than they expected. That evening, while reviewing the day's footage, Michael and Loretta noticed something off. "Wait! Rewind that part," Michael said, his heart racing. Loretta obliged, the screen showing Nicole appearing agitated. They leaned in, their anticipation palpable. "Something's happening," Loretta whispered. They felt a mixture of apprehension and hope, knowing this could be the evidence they needed to protect Kathy. One evening, Michael was reviewing the footage with Detective Harris when they saw Nicole handle Kathy roughly. Nicole's brusque actions made Michael's blood boil. "Look at the way she's treating her," he exclaimed. Harris nodded, his expression grim. There was no longer any doubt about Nicole's intent. "We've got her," Harris said, his voice filled with determination. Michael felt a mix of relief and anger. "She won't get away with this," he vowed. This confirmed their worst suspicions. Michael and Loretta exchanged worried glances, their fears justified by the footage. "We trusted her," Loretta murmured, feeling betrayed. Michael remained resolute, determined to see justice served. "We did the right thing by installing those cameras," he stated, his voice firm. Detective Harris assured them this evidence was crucial. "We can move forward with this," he said, outlining the next steps. Nicole stormed off after Kathy fell out of the wheelchair, making no effort to help her. The sight made Michael's heart ache for his mother's helplessness. "She's heartless," Loretta said, her voice trembling. They watched as Kathy struggled to get up, her frail form clearly in pain. Michael's fists clenched in anger. "This madness ends now," he declared. Harris agreed, ready to take the necessary actions. Harris immediately ordered Nicole to be brought in for questioning. "We'll handle this," he assured Michael and Loretta. Michael felt a weight lift off his shoulders, knowing swift action was being taken. "She won't harm Mom ever again," he said, relief evident in his voice. Loretta nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. They knew there was still a long road ahead, but this was a significant step forward. Meanwhile, Loretta stayed with Kathy, consoling her and ensuring she felt safe. Loretta brought a handmade quilt and wrapped it around Kathy's shoulders. "We'll sort this out, I promise," she whispered. Kathy, holding back tears, nodded slightly. "Thank you, Loretta. I don't know what I'd do without you all," Kathy said softly. Loretta made sure Kathy was comfortable, offering her a hot cup of tea as they awaited news from Michael. The police arrived, and Nicole was taken into custody. Detective Harris made the arrest personally. "Nicole James, you are under arrest," he stated. Nicole looked stunned, her face going pale. As the officers led her out, she glanced back at Kathy, who avoided eye contact. Michael sighed in relief, knowing a big step was taken. "Thank you, Detective," Michael said, shaking Harris's hand. "We're not done yet, Michael," Harris replied, determined. In the police interrogation, Nicole tried to maintain her innocence, but the evidence was piling up against her. "I didn't do anything wrong," she insisted, shifting nervously in her seat. Detective Harris placed the footage in front of her. "Explain this," he demanded. Nicole's eyes widened, her composure faltering. "That's not what it looks like," she stammered. Harris leaned in, his voice firm. "We have enough to prove otherwise. Tell us the truth." She stuttered and fumbled when presented with the footage Michael had captured. This isn't real," Nicole tried to argue, but her confidence was shaken. Detective Harris pushed the play button, replaying the incriminating scenes. Nicole's face grew red as she struggled for words. "Isn't there an explanation?" Harris pressed. Nicole glanced around the room, realizing her options were dwindling. I wasn't thinking," she finally muttered. "That's clear," Harris responded coldly. Detective Harris pressed her further, and Nicole eventually broke down, revealing her motives. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted to scare her a little," Nicole confessed, tears streaming down her face. Harris remained stern. "Why? What could you possibly gain from this?" he asked. Nicole hesitated, then broke down completely. "I thought she was hiding something valuable," she admitted. Harris nodded slightly, taking notes. "Keep talking," he instructed. She had been planning meticulously, hoping to find a substantial amount of money she believed Kathy had hidden. Nicole explained how she had overheard Kathy talk about old investments and hidden cash. "I thought if I pressured her enough, she'd tell me where it was," Nicole admitted. Harris nodded, prompting her to continue. Nicole detailed how she combed through the house and watched Kathy's every move, convinced there was money to be found. Nicole had limited access to Kathy's finances and was attempting to find any hidden valuables. "I searched everywhere. Drawers, behind picture frames, under the mattress," Nicole listed frantically. "But nothing. There was nothing," she added in frustration. Detective Harris leaned back, contemplating her confession. "So, you resorted to scaring an 80-year-old woman in hopes of finding something that didn't exist?" he questioned harshly. Nicole nodded meekly, realizing the foolishness of her actions. Push by push. Nicole had hoped to pressure Kathy into revealing where the supposed hidden money was. She admitted to creating scenarios where Kathy would feel vulnerable. "I thought she'd eventually crack and tell me," Nicole said, her voice breaking. Harris shook his head. "You endangered her life," he pointed out. Nicole sobbed, knowing she had no excuse. "I was desperate," she whispered. Harris noted down her confession, knowing the motive was clear. Just when it seemed Nicole's confession had explained everything, an even darker truth came to light. Detective Harris received additional information from officers searching Nicole's belongings. "You might want to sit down for this," an officer told him. They found something far more sinister among Nicole's possessions. "There are detailed notes and plans," the officer reported. Harris's eyes widened as he realized Nicole's intentions were even worse than they had suspected. As the police searched through Nicole's belongings at her residence, they discovered detailed notes and plans. Harris leafed through pages of meticulous writing and sketches. "She documented everything," he murmured. There were lists, dates, and even future plans outlining how she would continue her schemes. "We've got enough to ensure she's held accountable," Harris told his team. The depth of Nicole's plotting shocked him, and he knew they had to bring justice. Nicole had been planning to rob Kathy, and her rough handling was all part of her disturbing plan. Her actions were methodical, deliberately causing Kathy to feel unsafe and vulnerable. Michael and Loretta couldn't believe she had been so devious. "We trusted her," Michael muttered in disbelief. But now they knew the truth. Nicole's kind facade had been masking her real intentions all along. They were determined to see her face justice. What they didn't expect was finding correspondence indicating Nicole had an accomplice. The detailed notes referenced communications with someone else who seemed to be guiding her. "Who could it be?" Loretta asked, shocked. Michael shook his head, puzzled. "We need to find out," he replied. Detective Harris immediately began piecing together the clues, focusing on the communication records. The realization that Nicole wasn't working alone added another layer of urgency to their investigation. This accomplice had coached Nicole through the plan, providing advice and encouragement via messages. The notes revealed a chilling correspondence, with instructions and reassurances from this unknown person. They were guiding her every step, Detective Harris said. Loretta looked horrified. "Someone was helping her hurt my mother," she said, her voice shaking. Michael clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. They needed to find this person and bring them to justice too. The accomplice was now a missing piece they needed to locate and apprehend. Detective Harris expanded the search, focusing on tracing the communication records back to their source. "We can't let this person get away," he told Michael and Loretta. Michael nodded, the determination clear in his blue eyes. "We'll do whatever it takes," he vowed. They knew catching this accomplice was crucial to putting an end to the entire scheme and ensuring Kathy's safety. With Nicole's help, the police managed to track down this second individual. Under intense questioning, Nicole finally revealed the identity of her accomplice. "His name is Mark," she confessed, her voice trembling. Detective Harris wasted no time, mobilizing his team to locate and apprehend Mark. Loretta felt a mix of relief and anxiety. "We're so close," she whispered. Michael held her hand, offering silent support. They both hoped this would bring an end to their nightmare. The shocking climax revealed the accomplice to be a trusted family friend who had been targeting seniors. Mark, someone they had known for years, was the last person they'd suspect. "I can't believe it's him," Michael said, shaking his head in disbelief. Detective Harris confirmed, "He's been involved in multiple cases like this." Loretta felt a wave of nausea. "How could we have been so blind?" she asked. The revelation left them reeling, shaken to their core. Michael and Loretta were left reeling but grateful. The ordeal was finally over. "It's hard to accept, but at least we know the truth now," Loretta said, trying to find some comfort in the resolution. Michael nodded, his mind still spinning from the recent events. "We did what we had to do," he replied. They both knew it was time to focus on healing and ensuring Kathy remained safe with the people who truly cared for her. They took additional precautions. Michael and Loretta upgraded the home security system and arranged for a trusted neighbor to check in regularly. "We're not taking any more chances," Michael stated firmly. Kathy, though shaken, appreciated their vigilance. "Thank you for watching over me," she said softly. They made sure all the new measures were in place, giving them peace of mind. Their primary goal was to protect Kathy from any future harm. Kathy felt more secure with her family by her side, grateful for their unwavering support. Michael and Loretta visited her daily, bringing meals and spending quality time together. "You're never alone, Mom," Michael reassured her. Kathy's green eyes sparkled with gratitude, feeling the warmth of their love. They laughed and shared stories, slowly rebuilding the sense of safety and normalcy. Though the ordeal had been traumatic, it had also brought them closer, strengthening their family bond. You like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation,